Good morning. It's Sunday. Happy Sunday. Welcome to a bonus episode of Indeed, the Independent Wrestling Podcast. We're getting, I don't know, like pretty consistent with doing a random second episode just some weeks now. We did this last Sunday. We spent Mother's Day talking with Nyla Rose and her mom, which was shenanigans aplenty.
So good.
And we're here again with another someone that we've been obviously wanting to talk to for a very long time, not just for, his history within independent wrestling, wrestling in it, but now just, Mystery Wrestling, Live Zero Set, his involvement in everything out in Ottawa, Gatineau. We've got Eva Luna with us. How are you doing today, Eva Luna?
I'm doing good. Thank you for making the time for me. I know this, I don't know what you guys usually do on your Saturdays, but if I'm not wrestling, I have no idea what to do with my time. So thanks for filling it up with stuff.
A lot of video games and legal Canadian recreational activities for me. It's not a busy day around here.
I've been spending a lot of time on Animal Well, and also yes.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for joining us. I just got done doing an almost 4-hour podcast. That's what my Saturday mornings are usually consistent of. So I'm happy that you joined us here. And Mike is Canadian adjacent, not adjacent. He's actually Canadian. And we talked to a lot of Canadian wrestlers. So your name has been brought up on Indeed so many times at this point, and we are very happy to have you here to talk about some of it and how you got here. Mike was just talking about Mystery Wrestling, and I want to know so much more. I want to know the brains and why this thing exists, especially in this time and space where Rare Wrestling is at, where you're at as a pro wrestler. And why did you think that this was the right time to kind of do that?
Sure. Yeah, that's loaded, but honestly, it's great because I can rant about this stuff for a while. So let's go.
That's what we want.
Mystery Wrestling is it's a creation, but of myself, but not just myself. It's kind of it's a culmination of what our entire region of the Ottawa-Gatineau region has been working through for the last few years. We actually did Mystery Wrestling pre-pandemic, and at that time, when I didn't have the funds that I have today, it was way more a way to get people to come from other regions who just wanted to get a shot, and us tried some silly ideas. A reoccurring thing at Mystery at that point was a literal dummy that had my mask on, so I would appear on the show but not actually appear on the show. We would have a revolving announcer because we didn't do commentary for it, and so back then it was just like an easy way to throw our dumb ideas onto a show and see if sink or swim some people could mess around with some concepts and stuff. Right. And in front back then it was in front of 20 people in a little garage in our school. Nobody even knew it was happening. Then eventually what happens is I got signed for All Elite Wrestling. If you did not know that, well, news to you. So my lifestyle changed dramatically. I've been way more involved and ingrained with wrestling. I always have been. I've been part of the independent wrestling scene for about 20 years now, and I never have stopped. Even during All Elite Wrestling, they allow us to, pursue stuff on the independent level, and I've always continued doing so because if it wasn't for the independents, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I also think if I don't give to someone else, then I'm not doing my due diligence because some people helped me. And so I continue on the independents to help people. And that is part of what Mystery Wrestling is now. Now that I have funds, now that I have a platform much larger than before, through the pandemic, I kind of blew up on Twitch. I decided to bring it back because, one, I think pro wrestling is so one flavor now in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And what makes our show more unique is that we're pretty much telling you up front that it is just me paying for everything and we're not a serious concept in any way. It's like it is quite literally what you see. I rent a bingo hall and I fill it with my pro wrestling ring for a very niche audience of people who have followed me for the last 20 years. Most of the tickets I sell are 100 of so are to people I have wrestled for the last 20 years in a hall literally 5 minutes from my home. And I just bring my Twitch laptop. And that's really what it is. I've been doing Twitch streaming for video games. Why shouldn't we do pro wrestling instead? And so I wanted to take advantage of the Twitch platform and showcase some wrestling. And I also wanted to make sure that people understood that I was taking this seriously. And so I'd never ever, mystery wrestling at its base concept is that I don't want you knowing what's coming up, because I think that is the best kind of wrestling. I used to wrestle for PWG, and my favorite shows would be Mystery Vortex, because I feel like if you give people no expectations and you give them just about anything, they'll enjoy it so much more. Give you an example, we had Emi Sakura versus Maki Ito on our third show as the main event, and Maki Ito was announced because we started realizing that to sell tickets we have to at least say one person is showing up. And so we announced Maki Ito, but we didn't tell anyone Emi was going to be there. So expectations are just that Maki Ito is appearing. If we had announced that match ahead of time, people would have had 2 weeks to scrutinize it, think about it, set their expectations. And then when watching it, would probably not have enjoyed it nearly as much because they had time to think about it. The type of wrestling I like is I like to be surprised. I've wrestled for so long that I can kind of see the formula, see the mathematics between a lot of wrestling. Yeah. And when you do the mystery stuff, I don't have enough time to figure out what the structure of something would be. And so I think even as a fan, unknowingly, if you didn't realize that you were going to get Emi Sakura versus Maki Ito, you enjoy it that much more. The second it appears in front of you, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing this. You haven't had time to think of what maneuvers she'll do with this or what kind of match they'll have for you. And so Mystery Wrestling is about showcasing incredible wrestling. And I have set the bar very high for many reasons. One, I don't like doing things half-assed. And secondly, I want people to understand that their time I am not taking for granted. And so it's something I'm building, and it's a platform I'm building. And of course, we're bringing in huge names and huge surprises. We had Kaiju Big Battle on the last show, who is such a niche thing, but to me kind of encompasses what we try to do. And then using that platform with the big names, with the growing audience, with my growing brand myself, and showcasing Canadian talent. Because the hardest part that's been for me in the last 20 years, it took me 15 years until I was signed and I was making my living on nothing but pro wrestling, is that I was Canadian. And so getting a visa, getting entry into America, into other places, a lot of people don't watch Canadian wrestling. And so Mystery Wrestling is a way for me to throw out these crazy ideas, showcase some of the best pro wrestling from around the world, but also showcase a lot of incredible pro wrestlers from Canada because people don't get that platform. So it's like a multifaceted stuff. Sorry for ranting for so much.
No, it's perfect.
But you should watch Mystery Wrestling. You'd be supporting me personally, but you will be supporting literally every single person on that show.
Yes.
So. Yeah, absolutely. It's even the last show, you're kind of talking about the surprise, the surprise element. Knew Jordan Grace was going to be on the show. Mm-hmm. Having her finding out that she was wrestling Miyu Yamashita was, okay. And then it's like there's a pillow fight 2 or 3 matches before that, and that's the beautiful the variety and juxtaposition of everything on a mystery wrestling show. Did you think it was when you brought it back and in its current form, did you think it was going to take off like this, or at least so quickly? Because it's grown in popularity pretty rapidly. It seems.
Real fast.
I didn't think it was gonna blow up to this extent, but I did have a lot of faith in the concept. I thought it will take us a couple years, but then people will know that I don't take their funds for granted. We run a Patreon. A lot of what we run is supported by our patrons. But to be completely frank, and I've been frank on every single one of these Twitch streams, these are a huge financial burden on me. They cost so much money. If you're running an independent wrestling show, they cost a lot of money. And this one costs even more money because we invest in a lot of production. We invest in talent I can't advertise that cost a fortune. There's a lot of costs sunk into this. But
every promoter I ever talked to says, "Don't do it. Don't try
exactly.
this."
And I've ran professional wrestling shows before. I ran shows in like the French market under Le 07, and like trying to make just a pure independent show is very hard to generate money. It's just not a thing. Yeah, I mean, if you want everyone to get paid and an adequate amount, I don't believe in like low underpaying people, because that's like what I've had to face through the entirety of my wrestling. I don't want to do that to people. Then to pay them adequately, you'll never make money. It's just there's if a show has 6 matches, it's a base of 12 wrestlers, 3 referees, and then you pay for the full production. If everyone's getting a decent amount of money, tickets would have to be out of the roof. So it's a very hard thing to do. So we thought by leveraging Twitch and Patreon, we could help that. And so to get back to your question, the first show I knew was going to be a huge hole in my pocket. I put a lot of money into it, into the advertising, and also into who we brought in, and I don't seek sponsors, because at this moment I don't know what the value of what we do is, and so I don't want to like throw it away just to have the HelloFresh on our website, you know, just for who knows, like for $50, it's not worth it to me. And so I just assumed that I would lose a lot of money for 2-3 years, but at some point it would grow that it could live on its own. That's really changed in about 5 months. The first 3 shows I thought like, okay, you know, like I could see the trajectory, it's going up. The last 3 shows have really, really blown up our shows. Our Patreons in the last month alone doubled. Wow. And that is all on like the value of 1 clip. And so
should I roll said clip?
Yeah, here. I know it's in the intro. Just throw it on now if you'd like. I'll talk to it while it happens. But said clip single-handedly kind of...
Oh, hang on. It mutes us all. So.
Oh, okay. Here. I will... Please watch.
Oh.
It's never unfunny.
So,
I've seen this 1,000 times at least.
I was present for it, and even watching the clip makes me laugh. So so anyways, that single-handedly, that 1 clip kind of opened up this door where all of our videos get flooded into everyone's social medias now.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it happens, right? It's you get one that blows up, and then my brain is going places here. Anyways, the algorithm pushes it out more of your content, and so it's really helped us grow. And so now it's still a financial burden, but we're on the track to potentially getting to a place where this single-handedly, you know, covers itself. And you know, in a lot of other wrestling shows, they might be like, okay, cool, we're finally making money. I'm just thinking of trying to do bigger things, which is stupid. But also, I think that's the gamble of Mystery Wrestling, is that it's a passion project for me, and it's a passion project for a lot of people that are involved in it. And I think that's why there's so much growth from it. That's why Psycho Mike is blowing up. It's something that he's passionate about. I think that's why Cecil Nix's stuff always gets traction, is because he understands that, like, while we are a live show, we're also so multifaceted. A lot of our revenue is generated by this reaction type vertical video, right? That's why I make a point to get someone who's on commentary, who is of known value, who doesn't do commentary typically, is that it attracts something. I make sure they're people that I have an understanding with, that knows that, like, this is for fun, you can laugh. And so anyways, it's all of that culminates to, I think we're on the trajectory where Mystery Wrestling is going to continue growing, but also finally be at a point that it will not hurt me to run every single month. And that's actually going to lead, I think, to more shows and likely more opportunities for sure.
That was actually something I have a question on, because you said like everything's happening really fast. You're kind of, some of the shows you're probably doing something super extreme and you can't go lower. You got to go higher. How
Mhm.
far in advance are you booking the shows? Are you thinking about it consistently, or is it like, all right, I'm going to set around some mystery wrestling time to get
Okay.
into it?
I'm gonna reveal my secrets on this. Most shows don't get booked until the week of. I start setting pieces ahead of time. There's people that I
Amazing.
want to showcase, and there's names that like you have to secure well in advance. But to give you an
Mhm.
idea, Jordan Grace wasn't wrestling Miyu Yamashita until maybe 9 days before the show,
Mm.
and that's just because
Amazing.
I had another person before that didn't work out. I had another person before that didn't work out, and then
Oh,
one
shit.
person was set, and then a week later had to cancel. So it's like it's a lot of moving pieces. But the beauty is that I don't announce anything, and so I don't feel as rushed, and I don't feel like I'm sliding people. It sucks when you announce something and then you have to restructure everything, and then like you feel like you need to make up for it. I only have to make up what my expectations are,
Right.
because nobody knows what I'm going for, and sometimes that's great. Sometimes it pays off, and sometimes I invest in ideas that do not. But that doesn't like that's the beauty of it, is like it's this gambling feeling. I think about it all the time, but I also don't think about the card the whole time because
Right.
I try to keep a short show. My concept of wrestling is like I want you out within 2 hours. I live the weekly pro wrestling life, and my biggest what I think is a biggest detriment to most wrestling that I'm involved in is that there's too much wrestling.
Mhm.
Even on an independent show, if you see 10 matches, I won't remember anything beyond maybe 2 of those matches. And so my thought is you do shorter shows, you get more people coming back because they want more. They saw 2 hours, then they're like, God damn it, I can't wait for the next show. But if I give them 5 hours of pro wrestling, you might as well just say goodbye to them because they're tired. They don't want to do it. I don't know what my point was here. I'm just getting on a tangent.
I'm with you on it though, because we've like obviously we've been interviewing people from all walks of independent wrestling over the last couple of years now, and show length is definitely like it's a topic that gets brought up more often than not, and the prevailing like on the talent side, everyone is like, please shorter shows. Like, I don't want to go to a
10
4-hour
out of
show.
10.
I don't want to.
Nope.
I don't want to be here this long. Like
Every
I don't wanna be
wrestler
here
is
that
like
long.
shorter
It's-
shows, shorter shows,
Mhm.
shorter shows. Like no one's ever like, let's do a 20. Like no, it's always the promoter's thing.
Yeah, that's it. And same with like match length. I think like, and this is part of my meeting every time, but I say like, I think 15 minutes of wrestling is more than enough. In fact, it's too much. And if you do more than 15, I think that's egregious. Unless you're the best pro wrestlers in the world, I don't care to watch more than that. And that's not it's like, I've seen a ton of fantastic above 15-minute wrestling matches, but mystery wrestling, there's no expectations. You coming out of the current is half of what it is, right?
Yeah.
So to me, like just giving them enough of a taste of it, it's like if I compare it to video games or media, I like Dune. I think Dune's incredible. I'll never watch Dune again. It's 3 hours long.
Totally.
But I'll watch a horror movie that's 85 minutes more than once because it's an experience I could share with someone without demanding too much time from them. And so that's my
I
approach.
rarely pull up like Iron Man matches. Like I'll watch them
Yeah.
once and then that's it. I don't want to
Exactly.
see it.
But I'll
replay.
watch like the same squash matches 4 or 5 times just because
Totally.
of the length of it. And that's also why we invest in vertical videos too. It's the replayability of it, and that's what we're hopeful for mystery is that the length of it will lead to, more rewatching and eventually more appetite for more of it. So.
Between like mystery wrestling, Alpha One show length, those are like those are my happy place. Like, get me. I want to be out of the door in under 3 hours total. If at the like my 3 hours is like my.
But then sometimes
my brain starts to kind of go even at that point too, right?
Sometimes I try to think of the other side of like not wrestling freaks. So like some people don't watch 5,000 hours of wrestling a week, and they can tolerate a 5-hour show once on a Saturday. You know what I mean? So I guess you kind of also think of those people too.
I think it's a double-edged sword where I mean I don't think if you give people a lot, then eventually that giving a lot reduces like your growth, I think. But like if you're
True.
building to a bigger show, like a
Mhm.
like a pay-per-view being long, I think is perfectly fine. Most people will only see that once a year or invest in it once a year. A lot of people don't even watch wrestling, will go to a pay-per-view because it feels like a grandiose thing. But if every little thing, like one day I'm sure I'll run a super mystery wrestling show. That'll probably be the name of it. It'll be called Super Mystery Wrestling Show, and I'll straight up say it's like this will be long. I'm sorry, like, and that'll. But
This
like
will
I'm
be long.
with the understanding that I'm trying to fill a 4,000 seater. You're gonna get your values worth. Please show up. That I think it makes a ton of sense. I just
Totally.
think that if you're doing it regularly every single
Yeah.
time, it's hard to build an appetite for more if you're giving them more and then some every single time.
Especially when it's just like the smallest independent wrestling show with like 10 matches of like, all right, I don't think we need 10 of these.
Exactly. And match, especially in most wrestling shows, and that's why our shows are different, is that if there's 10 matches, maybe 8 of those are very similar. As at least conceptually, you know,
Definitely.
and so like it just feels like you're being told the same story, it's just slightly different. And that's also why we invest in things that aren't wrestling. You know, like I mean, don't get me wrong. The pillow fight, for example, is still pro wrestling. I think it's pro wrestling situationally, but it is not pro wrestling Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? It's pro wrestling of a different kind. And so we try to. I always sell our show as we're pro wrestling's buffet, you know, and the best way to eat it is not too much of it. You want 2 plates, you don't want any more than that. If you get 3 plates, you'll never want to eat this place again. And so, you know, you get all of your layers, and then at the end you get your best meal, and then you walk away and you're happy, and maybe you come back again, and then next time you try some different stuff. That's kind of how our wrestling shows are laid out, and these 10 match wrestling shows, sometimes 8 of them have the same flavor of wrestling, and so it's very hard. It like palate wise, it just you won't savor the wrestling. I'm sorry, not to get back into the analogies here, but you won't savor the wrestling that way because over time it just tastes all the same. So
Absolutely. So you mentioned the Patreon distribution, also like viewing on Twitch. It's really cool age we live in with all these options for distribution and broadcasting available on the internet now. Aside from the obvious benefit of being able to reinvest back into Mystery Wrestling more directly with a Patreon, what have been some of your other aspects of the platform that you've enjoyed? Because I think it's something that it's a little newer. So a lot of people are, I don't think I don't think what people can necessarily do with their Patreons has fully been maybe realized by the broad user base of it yet.
I think we still use it sparingly, to be honest. Like we haven't maximized the use of our Patreon, and that's kind of what's going to happen over time. When I talk about wanting to do more with mystery, and that is what I think we're going to be expanding on. At the end, Patreon, the people who invest on Patreon are our core audience. You know, we distribute for 2,000 people for free on Twitch every single time, and of course they're our audience, and of course the live audience of 200 or 200 plus are also our audience. But at the end of the day, the people who pay us monthly are our Patreons, and those are our most diehards. At least that's the way we view it. And so we're going to expand on that. The way we do it is I try to tier 1, you have access to mystery the way it was presented, and you'll have access to a little feelers on our next few projects. But then I want to try and expand looks on other platforms and other independents, and then that's I think how our Patreon's going to grow. It'll be more like a network of little independent stuff that you can watch at a different tier, maybe, or more deep dives into certain people. I get a lot of the acclaim for mystery wrestling, but the reality of it is that the stuff that people like, I didn't write it. To give you an idea, Cecil Nix going through that door, I have no idea that's happening. In fact, I ask no details of the wrestling because I think it's more fun that way for me. Part of investing all this money is that I also get to have a good time with my friends. And so I don't want to know what happens. And so as this grows, no doubt my name will be attached to it and my name will grow. But the reality of it is I want other people's name to grow. So for example, most of what is funny on our shows is because Cecil Nix is very funny and understands how to approach our type of wrestling. And so I'll always shout him out. In fact, our original mystery concept before was me and Cecil Nix, before the pandemic, was me and Cecil Nix investing in it. So that like a lot of what we know will work. Every single show, I just write Cecil Nix question mark and I just allow him to do what he wants. And so
Yeah, we just had Fresh Air on a few days ago, and they talked about how important Cecil is to the whole project too.
exactly. And like he knows like part of our show grows, and so his personal brand grows as well. But he also knows it's a collaborative effort. Like mystery wrestling is not just me. Of course, I'm at the figurehead, and maybe I put the money in front. But there's our editor does so much work. You know, we introduced Mystery Patrick, and we're trying to help his brand as well. My other partner doesn't even want to be known, so we don't talk about him. But not that it's anything wrong. He's just like, I don't care. I'm like, okay, cool. But then a lot of the local wrestlers, we try to throw them on. You'll see a lot of James Stone. He trains a lot of our people down at where we're
Scrapper.
at. He's an incredible wrestler. You'll see Stu a lot because Stu helps run the school with me, and you know, it has essentially built this region with me over the last 15 years. You'll see a lot of Cecil Nix. You'll see a lot of Psycho Mike because I think, like, when I want to put an eye on certain people, Psycho Mike is one of those people. So the Patreon will probably expand in those ways and try to put more the spotlight on those people and try to help them out and grow them. Invest in some of their ideas. That's kind of what our next step is going to be, is to do like a Mystery Presents, and it's an idea of a certain wrestler and just letting them have their brand attached to it. So it wouldn't be Evil Uno necessarily. It might be a Cecil Nix Presents or
Gotcha.
you know. So there's definitely ways we want to expand on this, and I think Patreon
awesome.
is the best way to help that because it's our number one source to our diehards, and if they want a thing, who are we to say no? We might as well try it, right? And like we might get at one point that the Patreon literally books the show. I don't know, you know. At some point, the growth of our Patreon and of our Twitch will expand on what concepts we can touch with mystery wrestling. And I think, you know, right now we're a pro wrestling show on Twitch, but what are we in 3 years? Are we on television? Are we on other stuff? Is this a touring show? Is this a talk show as well? Is this a podcast? Because we just started delving into the podcast world too. Who knows? And that is all to what the Patreon and what people's investment in our product is going to be. And at the moment, we're having a great time, and it's, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's so much fun for all of us that we're willing to do it. And then years from now, who knows what this is, right? And so Patreon is the number one source on how you can help us for sure.
The podcast is a good shout. I'm eagerly looking forward to a second episode because
we're filming it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh shit! And patron. But another thing I actually did enjoy on there that Reg would appreciate is you did an independent wrestling like match watch along. You watched London Lightning versus Titus Alexander from when Titus was up here like last. Actually, that was September. That was that same C4 show I was at like that same weekend. Yeah. See, he had that crazy match with Junior at C4.
So that's another way. Like, I mean, that was a show we produced and no one knows happened, right? And because it happened in my little city and no one watches Canadian wrestling, and so we're trying to expand our Patreon by also throwing the limelight on other promotions. You know, I'm working with other promotions that are Canadians that I think like, hey, you have people that should get an eye on you and your product should get an eye on you. Please let me support you in some way. Right. And so we're trying to expand in those ways and maybe help out some of the local independents and some of the and honestly, I'll even be more forefront of this. Not even just Canadian wrestling. You know, I plan to support wrestling all over the world. If that could be a hint to you. But that is how I want this to expand, is to just try and find the niches of wrestling and be like, hey, I love what you're doing. What can I do to cast a light on it and help you out? And I think it will reward them and it will reward me. And in the end, like, that's all I ever wanted in wrestling, is just someone to be like, hey, I would like to help you. And so I want to do that for everyone as much as possible.
Rising
Getting
tides
back.
lift all ships. And
Oh, yeah.
as Dylan McQueen said on here a few months ago, a candle loses nothing by lighting other candles.
Wow. Hey, whoa. Hey,
That's
Rosie,
good.
That's good. That's
No, I
good.
like that's what
Yeah.
that's like. Sometimes the guest will just like they'll hit us with one of the with a motivational quote they heard somewhere, and it's like, man, that one
That's
I-
a bar.
Yeah.
that one stuck
yeah.
with me. I'm like, all right, I
Yeah,
gotta
put that on my grave.
I gotta remember that one. We talked a lot about mystery wrestling, but we mentioned that something we've touched on a little bit here was finding success outside of Canada. You and a handful of other Montreal and Ontario wrestlers mainly did so, obviously, and most notably with Stu,
Stu!
Super Smash Bros. But you're now actually passing your knowledge down to future generations in the Ottawa-Gatineau region. You guys are trainers at the Keep, proprietors of the Keep. I know James Stone also does some training there. I'm not sure exactly who else, but I am familiar with a bunch of your students. But how did the Keep come to be the Keep?
So I started the same time I started Mystery Wrestling, the original concept, and also my sister promotion, Lutte 07, which is our French promotion. I also opened a wrestling school. To be honest, the reason I did is because I came from a wrestling school that did not help me as much as I thought a wrestling school would. And not that I had
Yep.
bad training. In fact, I appreciate the training I did, but there's a certain point where you don't get any more help.
Mhm.
And I found that a lot of where I did find my help was through wrestling other places and seeing other people and learning from other people. So when I started doing the Keep, at first it was just I was testing to teach a first class, but also bring in people for seminars so that the wrestlers in the region had a place to wrestle, a place to train, and also a place to learn from other people from elsewhere, because that's the best way you can, is if you wrestle with people who have done it properly and well, you'll learn, And so it started like that. I started doing that because I was initially looking to eventually sunset my wrestling career, because I thought like it would be best for me to figure out a different approach to wrestling that doesn't involve my body getting hurt every week. And so part of it was teaching, part of it was booking shows, part of it was mystery wrestling. That's changed, obviously. Now I make my living entirely, and so that changes dramatically how I'm going to approach my everyday life. But I've always been passionate about trying to teach others. I rode the roads with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn mostly, and a lot of what I learned in those cars is what ended up making me as a pro wrestler. And I think that a lot of what I teach my students are hopefully going to make them great pro wrestlers too. And I even try to value that or teach that to my students, but like, we're trying to give you everything as much as we can, because I want you to succeed. If you out succeed's not a word, but if you out succeed me within a year and you're in bigger places than me, I'm ecstatic. I wish someone could have helped me early on. And if so, for example, I know you had Fresh Air on here, and I will speak the world of all my students, but for Fresh Air, for example, me and Stu were a predominantly tag team based blow up on the independents, but we also both did singles work. And both those guys, McRae and Junior, will just ask us like, hey, what should we do next? Like, how do I expand on what I'm already doing? And they'll take those ideas instantly. I'll be like, okay, you guys should form a team. It's a lot simpler to be a team on the independents. There's only maybe 12 teams that are known that it get used regularly, rather than 200 singles wrestler. And then when you get a carload, figure out a carload that's from a region and just sell that carload. That's kind of like how we did it at first. And then it'd be like, okay, we've done that. What can we do next? I'll be like, start hitting the independents in the UK. One, because there's great work out there. You'll learn a ton. It's great life experiences. In fact, you should always have aimed for cool life experiences. But then it also expands your wrestling here, because people think they may never watch it, but they'll be like, oh, you're going to Europe, you must be incredible. And it's a perception. And so I teach because I wish people had taught me this. And I will also say I do less of the teaching nowadays because of my schedule, and Stu does most of it now. So like a lot of our students are incredible because he is an incredible wrestler. And so,
Are they called the students?
oh, you know what? I don't think they have a definition of their own, but I'm going to bring that in for sure. I think they should. They should definitely have a mark of their own. So yeah, we've been very, very fortunate to have great wrestlers, a lot of young minds. I think Junior and McRae are under 25 and are incredibly smart.
It makes me mad.
Oh, me too. All the time. I'm like, guys,
young people.
Yeah, it took me until I was like 31 until I figured out what you guys are figuring out now.
London even younger and like
London Lightning
even like less time and so good already.
And here's the thing too, like I think a lot of what has made me who I am is I started wrestling young. These guys started as young as I did, with a lot more people willing to give them knowledge while their brains are ready to take that knowledge. Right. It's hard for me to learn it now, you know. But when you're 16 to 20, that knowledge sticks because you're learning like what you want to do with life and what is important to you and what values you're going to take with you in life. And so those kids all came in and wanted to be professional wrestlers more than anything in the world, and we just tried to reinforce that and reinforce positivity and stuff. And now I don't think it's me and Stu why Fresh Air and London Lightning are doing incredible. I think they did that themselves. They had talents that a lot of other wrestlers may not. But like, I'm very, very happy that our teachings may have gotten them so quickly through some of that stuff, because now London Lightning, for example, is a year and a half in and he's already wrestling on AEW almost every Canadian wrestling show, right? Mm-hmm. And that man's had less than 60 matches, and I personally think like crap, London Lightning is maybe like 3 matches away from being better than I am. So but that makes me happy to hear, you know.
That's cool though.
Yeah, it's very cool, and like that's what I want. I want everyone that follows me to trump me, but speak well of me. That's all I want.
Totally.
And
I'm better than him and he sucks. That wouldn't be the way.
Yeah, exactly. No, I want people to, I mean, I don't want my praises sung from the ring, but I do want people to know that I helped. And so that's kind of been my whole approach on life, including in wrestling. And so, yeah, I'm very happy for my students.
Hey, I'm happy to give you your flowers. But you know, like other tag, you know, like not just Fresh Air too, like tag team wise, Project 8100, you know, Hattie and Dexter, those guys are, you know, people better start looking out for them now because they're both so good.
Yeah, they're doing great. And the 2 others of our students, and Hattie and Dexter Doom. Dexter Doom was my first ever student from scratch. Wow. To give you an idea, Junior Benito came from the school I came from originally and had learned most of it. And I actually kind of trained Junior Benito a little bit when he was like 13, except I wasn't allowed to. He kept coming to shows and being like, I'd like to get trained. And after like 10 shows of doing it, you feel like, okay, I got to teach this kid something. Like I shouldn't, you're too young, but also you definitely want this. So let's at least like get you prepared mentally for this stuff. But Dexter Doom is my first ever complete student in a way where no one else had an effect on him but us. And like he's grown dramatically. He's taken this so seriously as well. And Hattie's the same thing. You know, Hattie is one of our more recent students. He's only a year in, but he takes it very seriously. He listens. He wants to get better. He applies what we give him. And so both of them applied what essentially I said about Fresh Air. It's like, hey, this is how I think you can get further. You know, there's not a lot of teams. There's it's easier to sell a whole carload than it is to sell one person's travel, blah, 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 blah. And so they took that concept and then they have really worked together incredibly well. I also think they do different wrestling than a lot of, like Fresh Air has one style of wrestling. They have one style of wrestling too. Totally. And I like that about wrestlers I trained as well. We try to differentiate them a little bit into what they like to do. And yeah, I'm very happy for both of them too. They're doing incredible.
Hey, you guys, you and Stu just wrestled them at C4 actually a couple months ago, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Yeah, they did great.
Card debut.
That's what I wanted to talk about, Stu, because we talked a lot about tag team wrestling and we talked a lot about the future and what's going on, but you are still one of the best tag teams in the world. How do you, with how much is going on between the both of you, how do you guys prioritize still being a tag team?
Honestly, we don't prioritize being a tag team anymore, and that's just because.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I know. I think everyone likes us as a tag team, and I
You
and I
guys are
agree.
so good.
We're a great team, and like any show that we can team, we will for sure. But we just have different priorities in life. I have to still travel with AEW
Right.
once, if not twice a week, so I'm always gone, and he's more based in Canada right now, so it's a lot harder for us to meet up at an independent that both of us can go to, for example. And so and Stu for a long time has also, we've shown people that we're a great team, but Stu and I have also wanted to be like, hey, let's also show people that we have more value in general, like
Totally.
we can be independent people as well. And so we've tried to do both. I think everyone's going to always think of us as the Smash Brothers and always think of us
Forever.
as we're just we have an incredible chemistry that I have never been able to replicate with any other person. And so like and we're both aware of this. Like I still see Stu weekly and we still talk all the time, and like we don't work at the same place anymore, but we still see we're still part of each other's lives. So is there an expansion on what we're going to do as a team? At the moment, we're not planning as is, but we're also, I think, planning a larger scale of what we're going to do with pro wrestling as a whole.
Totally. But somebody can book you guys together.
Oh, yeah, if you want
the
to.
stars
Yes,
align.
actually, yes. Yeah, look, hey, please,
Yes.
actually, you should book me and Stu Grayson for your shows.
Yes.
Contact me. I'm very simple, Evil Uno everywhere, and I will respond any direct message.
I'm just selfishly trying to get you guys in a tag match somewhere. So yeah, do that. Somebody.
Yeah, hey, you over there. I don't want to voice that to a specific place, because then if they don't book me, I look foolish.
You over there.
Yeah, no. I actually recently that you guys had like a double shot weekend against Violences Forever at C4 and DPW, and that was some good wrestling.
Man, they still got it.
I mean,
Never
that's
lost
the thing.
it.
We've
lost
still
it,
been
Reg.
constantly tagging for about 15 years, right? So it's hard to like that's there. It's
totally.
instant. I could not wrestle with Stu for 4 months and then instantly it wouldn't matter. We've rode the same roads for the entirety of our careers. We have the same chemistry. We have the same approaches. So
I get kind of irrationally angry talking about Stu because I think he's like one of the most underrated wrestlers there are.
I agree.
I don't
completely.
I'm like, I don't understand. Every time he wrestles, it's like, well, how is everybody else not seeing this? But that's another story for another day.
His brand of humor is so unique too.
Yes,
It's
he's
not,
actually
like, he's
very
hilarious.
funny. He's very fun, and like that's we try to maximize everyone's skills, and like Stu, I think, is a great comedian, except no one knows it because they view him as such a serious entity. But that's by design, we've both been wrestling 20 years, and for about 12 of those years, we were purely seen as comedic characters.
Right.
And so like to Stu, he's like, okay, I want to try the other way and the other approach. And we both did it. And we both, I think, really succeeded at it as well. And so he has one approach he wants to do, but I think he's also incredibly funny. Yeah. And, to go back to your point, I think he's an incredible wrestler. I think he's in Canada, I'd say he's top 5.
Totally.
If not top 10 somewhere in the world. But being a great wrestler is not enough. There's so much that's just luck, timing, social media presence. Like there's so much to it that it's just that's what it is, and if you're not given that opportunity, it's hard, right? And there's so much incredible wrestling out there too, that how do you differentiate yourself? And so I think Stu, it's unfortunate, he's one of the best pro wrestlers in the world. I think he still is. It's just that he just hadn't had that opportunity yet to showcase himself to its maximum level.
Well, I'm really glad that we got to talk about him because it segues me into my next topic perfectly. Later tomorrow while we're recording this, but really later this afternoon, Stu's got a fire match at Alpha One Pro Wrestling. He's wrestling Alec Price in a singles match this afternoon.
Super fire.
I want to talk about Alpha One because, well, it's in my hometown. I am a Hamilton kid. Alpha One, that's my shit. Ethan Page, he's my hometown king. You've returned after 8 years, promptly won the Zero Gravity title.
Yep.
How is it different from the last time you were there?
It's funny. It doesn't feel so different. It's been the crazy thing of it is like I've known Ethan Page for 18 years now. I was on the first ever Alpha One show. I don't think I was on the last one before this like recent resurgence, but I was on some of the last few shows for sure. And we're in the same venue. We have the same, I think, pizza sponsorship. The same people that were involved before are involved now. A lot of my friends from back in the day are still at these shows. Steve Brown is still there. BMD is still there. You know, a hacker is still somewhat involved. You know, we'll always shout out the hacker for sure. So in a lot of ways, it's not any different. It's still producing incredible wrestling and kind of being at the forefront of independent wrestling in Canada. Ethan Page has a great eye for talent. He wrestles all over the place. And a lot of the times, Alpha One or C4 Wrestling, you'll see people wrestle there. And then 2 years later, they're on national television. Yep. And that's just because I think both Alpha One and C4 and a few other places too have an eye for talent. And I think... invest in that talent, and that's you know, to bring back to Stu Grayson, he's got a fire match with Alec Price. I've wrestled Alec Price. I think he's one of the best up and comers from the Northeast.
Yep,
I think he's super dynamic. He's different, and like you're seeing him on these shows, and I wouldn't be surprised if 3 years from now you're seeing him on TV, right? So
guaranteed. Feels like
Alec Price.
The difference now is just I think Alpha One has more funds, and so you're seeing even bigger stars, and you're seeing more attention, and also. Ethan Page is a guru when it comes to you know, the social media and the video and the kind of like public perception aspect of wrestling. He's very smart about graphics, about promoting. You know, he got full page spread ads in the PWI. Like no one's thinking about doing this stuff. He got he's putting it for free on YouTube. That's the same thing we're trying to do on Twitch, where it's like, why charge you to watch it live if it could grow the base, if it could give more eyes on this stuff? And so like they're doing all the great choices, and I think you know, at some point Alpha One will get even more of their flowers. But I think the only thing that's changed now is just Ethan Page has more funds to invest now, and also has independent wrestling has blown up since we were doing it a decade ago, 20 years ago too. So it's not that it's lucrative, it's not, but there is at least an audience for it, and so it can at least stay alive. It can keep growing in some sense. And so I'm very excited for that Alpha One show. You know, I'm defending my championship. Of course, I'm very excited to win. But that Stu Grayson and Alec Price match and that 5-way ladder match are both the ones I really want to watch.
Yeah. Not to mention also like I think straight up tag match. I think for the first time 2v2, Fight or Flight and Fresh Air, which. In terms of like top tag teams, you know, Fight or Flight, you would say are like the kings of the Toronto, like the GTA tag scene. You've got Fresh Air, you know, them and TDT are like definitely a battle for that Ottawa, Gatineau, Montreal supremacy. So like having that 2v2 match, big weekend for the Keep. That's you guys, you know, title match. You know, Alec Price and Stu, that tag match. I do like what you're mentioning though, with like Ethan Page keeping an eye on like talent and people he's like met over the years. He wrestled Alec Price at like a Blitzkrieg Pro show in a mall like 3 years ago, and then like since then, that is like when the Apple AirTag went on Alec Price, and Ethan Page is like, all right, Alpha One's back. Like 3 years later, here you go. Here's these dope matches.
I think that's kind of how wrestlers grow nowadays, you know, because there's way more independence, there's way more social outreach from independent wrestlers themselves, and everyone has their, you know, but an Evil Uno brand 20 years ago wouldn't mean anything, you know, but nowadays there's ways to communicate with other people, and there's ways for you to understand that if I put my weight behind someone, they're worth something. And so Ethan Page is the same way. I think like he puts his weight around certain wrestlers, and Alec Price is no different, and a lot of the Canadian wrestlers, he's doing the same thing. I think in a lot of ways he's showcasing the future of wrestling of everyone he wrestles, and I think that's kind of how wrestlers blow up now, is you wrestle one person, and one person's like, how is this guy not known more? I think Joey Janela is a huge influence on that too.
He is.
Spring Break.
Yeah, Spring Break, and I think GCW to some extent too. Like they they understand he has value and he's wrestled everywhere and he has an eye for talent. So if he says, "Hey, this guy's good, you should use him," why not be one of the first few to find a gem and showcase that gem, right? And so I think there's a lot more investing in wrestlers and their visions, and Ethan Page has always been one who's had incredible vision. And I think on top of that, also he just has an eye for showcasing talent, but he's also trying to showcase Canadian talent, which I also respect. So yeah, the kudos to Ethan Page for sure.
Also one of the best ever.
He's great. Oh yeah,
So
oh, yeah.
good.
Oh yes.
Yep.
Frustrating with him too. Another story for another day. I'm like, they need to stop doing the Canadian homies like this. But you know, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm holding on for dear life. Don't worry.
Do you have anything wrestling related you'd like to ask Uno before I start asking him about anime and video games?
No, I got my Stu questions in. I think we're good.
Have you watched Chainsaw Man yet?
I read some of it. I read, I think, 10 of the manga issues, but I haven't watched it yet. The reason being that I am already watching 2 simultaneous animes, and I like to complete things, and if I don't complete them, I'll never complete them. And so I'm watching My Hero, and I'm watching Hunter x Hunter. And if I don't watch every single thing that they make now, I'll never finish it. Like Attack on Titan, I have to go finish that last season, and I don't think I ever will because I forgot it existed. And so I don't want to jump into other stuff, but it is definitely on I was going to say short list. It is not a short list, but it is on the list of animes I have to watch after this for sure.
I will say only 12 episodes, so very easy to get through. It's like
Sold.
It's like 3.5 hours. You can kill it off in an afternoon, and then it's like they haven't continued it in well over a year. So like I don't know. But then I like when you look at the animation in it, it was very, very ambitiously animated, like some very groundbreaking effects in it. So I can understand maybe it just takes longer to make those. I don't know.
That's true.
I mean, an animated show is just probably not something easy to produce to begin with.
No.
Right.
And I think also manga wise, it's not like Chainsaw Man's been around for that long. So as the anime gets popular, the manga has to keep getting produced, and I'm sure they have to like agree to more, and like I'm sure there's a lot of
you don't want to be in like the Frieza era filler episodes of Dragon Ball Z where they're just like powering up for 20 minutes.
I didn't know any different though. I was pumped when I was a kid and watching that for sure.
Yeah. Is this the week? Oh no, it's okay. Next week Goku's gonna fuck
Frieza.
How about what have you been gaming on lately? What's
I game on every console still, but the last week and a half I've been playing Animal Well, which is it was made by one guy. It's an independent game. He made the music, he made the programming, he made the graphics, blah 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 blah. He made everything in the game. And it's a Metroidvania game, but it's more based on exploration and platforming than combat. In fact, there's very 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 little combat. And I like to if people have played Undertale and like you play a game where a person has a singular vision and you appreciate someone addressing like one type of game and building upon it in ways you don't expect. Animal Well is that, but for Metroidvania games for sure. It is like dense with puzzles and dense with like weird mysterious stuff. And so I've been picking at that for a while. And I've been also playing Mini Shoots Adventures on my Steam Deck, which is just like a Link to the Past Zelda type game, except instead it's a space shooter. So instead of going like in dungeons and them just being like Zelda dungeons, they're also bullet hells simultaneously. And so I've been playing that, and I've been enjoying that a whole lot.
That one sounds like a good time. Damn. All right.
Sick.
Well, look, we appreciate you so much for coming and hanging out with us on this Saturday afternoon. You'll be everyone else, you're watching this tomorrow morning. It's Sunday, but I'll see you later today, or tomorrow. Whichever timeline we want to be speaking in here. But before we do let you out of here, do you have anything you want to promote, plug? Let the people know where they can find you at.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like I've promoted this entire time, but yes. If you want to follow me on anything, you can follow me Evil Uno on every single platform. I think the only one is like I don't run my own TikTok, and I think that's evil.uno. That's Mystery Patrick, my partner, that does that. I just refuse to get another social media platform. I'm getting too old to have another one on deck. Same with Threads. I tried opening it. I understand it. I just can't.
I can't.
It's
can't
just Twitter.
do it. Yeah, and even Twitter, I'm like, man, I'm starting to. I think I'm getting older, and slowly I just want to do if pigeons would come back and just carrier mail and stuff, I think I'd be happy. Anyways, follow me at Evil Uno everywhere. Great social media content from me. But if you want to support me, the best way to do so is Mystery Wrestling. MysteryWrestling.com will lead you right to our Patreon. You can watch any of our previous shows. We've had, not that I want to reveal anything. In fact, part of the fun is watching a show and knowing absolutely nothing, but I have to sell it. So, Orange Cassidy appears on some of these shows. You get some hilarious matches like pillow fights, an extremely ruled Iron Man match where, the referee actually upholds all of the rules, but very strictly. We've had Emi Sakura versus Maki Ito. I've had El Desperado from New Japan. I've had Kaiju Big Battle. I've had a Tokyo Joshi Pro Princess Championship defense. We do cool stuff. We do cool shit at MysteryWrestling.com. Please, if you want to support, just go watch a show. If you don't like it, let me know. That may ruin my life, but I will read it and I will take your criticism. And you can influence the show by doing so. And so we appreciate you if you do support.
Hell yeah. Well, once again, Uno, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody who has tuned in and are watching this. Have yourself a good Sunday. If you are watching this at upload time, go to Ethan Page's
A1Wrestling.com.
Watch Alpha One Wrestling this afternoon. MysteryWrestling.com or Patreon.com/MysteryWrestling. Sign up there. Peace out. We love you.